Hey guys, so today we are going to talk about market value and specifically your market value. So let's get into it. Now, you may have thought about this before. The world deals in assets. I know, it's a shocker, right? And something that I think a lot of us like to forget at times is that we get, and honestly, this is kind of on us, guys. Like, I'm talking to the juniors. Like, it's not your fault that this has happening. It's actually, I would argue, more of the mid-level seniors programmers if we have to assign blame to anybody for this. And you see, one of the big illusions that a lot of senior developers will have, or rather, I think that it's not that we try to do this. It's just that because we have already progressed past like the early stages of and the challenges that you face at an early stage as a programmer, we're already past that hump, and now we have kind of gotten to a point where we're fairly solid. The market is fairly there's a lot of demand for programmers, right? So we don't really have to worry so much about the sort of things that a junior would have to worry about just starting out. And so we start diving into new programming languages, we get opinionated, and we start talking about all of these things on social media and blogs and all that good stuff, all our favorite languages and why you should pick that one and not that one and so forth. And we forget something. And the thing that we forget is that when we do that, we are communicating outwards to a massive amount of junior developers who don't really know so much about this sort of thing. They want to get into programming and so forth. We forget to communicate one fundamental thing. And that is that our market value is high enough for us to do these sorts of excursions or dabble in other languages and go into different things and just kind of try things out a little bit and have some fun and so forth, because we've already been through the part which is most important, and that is, as I said, to establish market value. What do I mean by market value? Well, I mean, guys, that when it comes to programming and software development is just like any craft. It is something that allows you to produce goods and services, if you will, for somebody who is willing to pay for them. Now, as a junior, your ability to do so is extremely limited, which means that you have to have a few considerations before you go into programming. Now, what I will argue is that you have to understand how the market works, or how the programming market works. Just as a blacksmith or a carpenter or whoever needs to understand how to make a profit from his or her skills, you have to understand how to make a profit from your skills. Now, for a carpenter, if we take that as an example, if you want to if you're a complete beginner, you've never ever built anything in your life, the first thing you should consider is, okay, what's the easiest thing? What's the easiest thing for me to learn, or how can I quickly acquire the basic skills that I need so that I can support myself doing this? It may not be the first thing that you want to do. It may not be like this super, maybe you want to carve, I don't know, small wooden figurines or something like that. Now, there are of course people out there who started doing that and started making money from it, but the question is that the common case? I would argue no. I would argue that most carpenters starts out by taking an apprenticeship, something like that, building either interior stuff or furniture or houses or whatever, or blacksmiths, the same sort of thing. If we're now talking really old school professions now, I hope you can still understand the analogy here. So what you'd start by doing is to learn the solid thing, the thing that is going to give you a base market value. And that's true for us senior software developers as well, or for people who have more experience. They start out doing the same sort of thing. Or alternatively, they're fortunate enough to go into something very obscure or something that doesn't have a lot of market value, but they somehow survive, they can support themselves, and then they finally reach that magical point, which is where their market value starts to stabilize a little bit. And your market value starts to stabilize when you have enough experience, when you have enough things on your CV to kind of prove and make it feel comfortable for anybody who wants to hire a programmer that, yeah, this person is probably going to be able to do the job that I'm going to pay them for. Because at the end of the day, guys, that is what you're going for if you want to be a professional software developer. Now, when I use the term professional software developer, and people kind of define it however they want, your definition may vary, but to me, going in as a freelancer and getting a few gigs here and there to kind of support yourself a little bit is not the same thing as a long-term, like being in software development long-term, because your market value is very unstable, or rather, it's very unlikely that you're going to be able to stabilize your market value for a long time. And that's also something you need to consider whenever you start dabbling in these, as I said, like when you get to a certain point, you start dabbling in different languages and so forth. I'll give you a great example. My paycheck, like my market value, does not come from the fact that I know a little bit of Elixir. It does not come from that I know some Go, or that I dabble in Rust, or all these other things that I find interesting. My market value comes from the fact that I know a lot of JavaScript and that I know Java. That's what people want to pay me for the most part. Then there are, of course, there are companies out there who are actually using these a little bit less stable, less trendy technologies, and they want to pay me, like they want people for that as well. Now, I'm not saying that you should learn these two languages and just stick with them. I'm saying that this is something you should carry with you when you're being told by people, like when you fundamentally ask the question, what should I learn? What should I do in order to become a software developer and do it professionally? All I can tell you is you have to think about it from the market value perspective. If you want to work long term as a programmer, you have to always consider what it is the market is paying for. What your the job providers, the people who are paying for software development, what do they want from you? Because you are a craftsman. And a craftsman, no matter how skilled, who only can produce something that nobody's willing to pay for, is not worth anything. That's at the end of the day, that's how it works. You're not learning, everybody learns software development for their own reasons, and if you're only having fun, that's great. Just learn whatever you want. No, don't listen to me if all you want is to be able to, I don't know, maybe you really like Haskell. Maybe that's like your favorite language and you really like it and you just want to have it as a hobby. Go nuts. Have super fun. If that's not the case and you want to go in and work and be a professional and so forth and do it long term and so forth, then maybe you should consider something different, or maybe not. It depends on your region. So what I want you to take away from this is, as I said, you always have to ask yourself, what is a good investment? Because you can't learn it all. What are the popular languages in your region? What are the trendy technologies that you know everybody's talking about, and not only talking about? That's important. Not only talking on Flashback or Reddit or Facebook or whatever social media site you're getting your information from. Don't just listen to what people are saying. Go onto the job postings, go and check what people are paying for, and you'll get an understanding of what to bet on. And when you have stabilized your market value, you're going to be where I am today, or where people who are a lot more experienced than I am are. You have the freedom to kind of play around and do what you want. Because trust me, you may not think this when you start out, but at some point you're going to get so experienced, quote unquote, with just programming that you pick up new languages very quickly. And that's when your market value has stabilized. When you've gotten to a point where you are a true professional, you're not just working in some very niche little thing. You can pretty much apply for most jobs, and you will get a fair shot at getting that job. That will happen one day. And then when you're there, it is on you to maintain that market value. Have a great day.